Over 200,000 years ago, deep within the vast and untamed landscapes of ancient Africa, something extraordinary began. A new kind of human emerged, Homo sapiens. They were not yet the dominant force we know today, but within them existed a powerful potential. These early humans did not live alone, they depended on one another. Small groups moved together across the land, forming tight bonds built on trust and survival. They communicated through sounds and gestures. Their existence was a daily dance with nature and each other. While Homo sapiens were evolving in Africa, far to the north and west, another human species had already mastered survival in some of the harshest environments on Earth, the Neanderthals. For hundreds of thousands of years, they had endured the cold of Europe. Neanderthals were far more advanced than once believed. They crafted tools with precision, controlled fire for warmth and cooking, and lived in structured groups. Evidence suggests they cared for their injured and elderly, showing a level of social connection that reflects deep emotional bonds. As time passed, Homo sapiens began to move beyond the borders of Africa. This migration was not a single journey, but a gradual expansion driven by curiosity, necessity, and survival. They followed animal herds, searched for new resources, and adapted to unfamiliar terrains. The journey out of Africa was long and uncertain. Generations passed as groups slowly spread across continents. They faced extreme weather, scarce food supplies, and unknown dangers. Yet they continued forward. Their tools improved, their strategies evolved. Eventually, the distance between these two human worlds disappeared. Homo sapiens and Neanderthals began to share the same regions, the same resources, and the same landscapes. It was the first time in history that two different kinds of humans existed side by side. This moment marked one of the most important encounters in human history. Two human species, shaped by different environments and different paths, now faced one another. What followed would not be a single event, but a complex story, one of curiosity, competition, interaction, and lasting impact. The first encounters between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals were likely filled with uncertainty. Neither species had ever seen another human quite like themselves. Movements slowed, eyes watched carefully. Every gesture carried weight. They observed one another from afar, studying behavior in silence. The way they moved, the tools they carried, the sounds they made, each detail mattered. Homo sapiens often more slender and adaptable. As their territories overlapped, both groups depended on the same environment to survive. They hunted the same animals, gathered from the same lands, and followed similar seasonal patterns. This created an unspoken tension. Resources were limited, and survival demanded efficiency. But not every encounter was defined by tension. There may have been moments, brief and rare, where curiosity overcame fear. Observing how the other hunted, how they made tools, how they survived harsh conditions. Over time, the presence of each species may have influenced the other. Techniques improved, strategies evolved. Whether through direct interaction or distant observation, ideas moved across boundaries. As generations passed, the relationship between Homo sapiens and Neanderthals became more complex. They were no longer just distant observers. In some regions, they lived within closer proximity, crossing paths more often. Scientific evidence now reveals that these two species did more than coexist. They connected. Through interaction and interbreeding, their genetic histories became intertwined. This merging of human paths was not just a biological event, it was a turning point in human evolution. It meant that the story of humanity would not belong to one species alone, but would carry traces of multiple lineages. As time moved forward, something began to change. Neanderthals, once widespread across vast regions, became less visible. Areas that once showed clear signs of their presence grew quieter. The environment itself may have played a role. The Ice Age brought unpredictable changes, extreme cold, shifting ecosystems, and reduced resources. Survival became more difficult, especially for smaller, isolated populations. In some places, the final encounters may have taken place. Brief glimpses of Neanderthal groups moving across distant landscapes, fewer in number, quieter in presence. Though Neanderthals faded as a distinct population, they did not vanish without leaving an impact. Their tools, their survival strategies, and their adaptations influenced the path forward. Around fires at night, stories may have been shared. Memories of encounters, descriptions of those who once walked the land alongside them. These stories, whether spoken or simply remembered, helped preserve the idea that humans were not always alone. Today, science confirms what those ancient encounters left behind. Many modern humans carry small traces of Neanderthal DNA. It is a reminder that their story did not end completely. It became part of ours. A connection written not in words, but in our very biology. The meeting of Homo sapiens and Neanderthals was more than a historical moment. It was a defining event. It shaped the direction of human evolution, leaving behind a legacy that continues to influence us today. As Homo sapiens moved forward, they continued to adapt, innovate, and expand into new territories. They carried with them the knowledge of the past, lessons learned through survival, interaction, and change. The landscapes they traveled still held quiet reminders of those who came before. Subtle traces remained, woven into the environment, as if the land itself remembered the presence of another human story. Knowledge did not stand still, it evolved. Tools became more refined, techniques improved, skills were passed down, strengthened, and expanded. Each generation built upon the last, moving further from the past while still carrying it forward. Humanity continued its journey across the world, entering new environments and facing new challenges. From open plains to dense forests, from cold regions to warmer lands, Homo sapiens adapted, survived, and spread. But the story of humanity is not a straight line. It is a web of connections. The meeting of these two species reminds us that our history is shaped by interaction, not isolation. By shared moments, not separate paths. Within us, the legacy of those ancient encounters remains. Not always visible, not always understood, but present. A quiet connection across time, linking us to a world that existed long before recorded history. This is the story of us. A story shaped by survival, adaptation, and connection. A story that began with many paths crossing, many lives interacting, and many moments unfolding. And even today, as we look back, we are still discovering just how deeply those ancient encounters continue to define who we are.